From the surge of positive COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations on the rise to distance learning as our kids head back to school, Sacramento isn't alone in having to continually adjust and implement new guidelines and protocols to keep the community safe. Joining us live this morning to share how Sacramento plans to continue keeping up with the current health crisis situation is Mayor of Sacramento, Darrell Steinberg. Welcome back to the show, Mayor Steinberg. Can you hear me, Mayor? Mayor, can you hear me?
Aubrey.
Yes.
How are you?
Yes. So glad we're connected with you. The numbers, they're still there when we're talking about coronavirus cases. Any ideas when we might see a decline start to happen?
Well, hopefully sooner than later, because of course the last month or more, we have seen increases as we've reopened the economy, but where people have not taken all the precautions that that we have been told need to be taken if we're going to keep the numbers down. Again, so much of it is up to us, and we will see a decrease in the numbers if we go the extra mile to make sure that we stay away from large crowds. We only engage out in public for things that are essential, and that we wear the protective cloth known as a mask. We've been saying this for many months, and the research has only strengthened that it gives us the best chance of preventing more increase. This is a terrible situation. We had our former colleague, Robbie Waters, die yesterday of the coronavirus. And too many people are dying and getting sick. And we have it within our power, I think, to do more than what we are doing to keep each other safe and to keep our community safe.
Right. Another thing that I have heard, and a lot of people have been saying, is like, well, what happens if someone's not wearing a mask? Maybe they should just hand out those citations. Do you think we need citations, that type of enforcement, when people choose not to wear masks in public spaces?
I've said this, I've said this for many weeks now. I would like to see some targeted enforcement. You know, the difficulty is so much of the increase now is attributable to people who are holding gatherings, large gatherings in their homes or in their backyards. And that, of course, is difficult, not impossible, to be able to enforce unless a neighbor reports it. But where there are flagrant abuses out in the public, whether it's in and around takeout food or in the parks, I would like to see some targeted enforcement, because I think the word needs to get out even more than it has, that we are serious about these orders and it is about life and death for so many. Yes, I think that may be necessary.
Well, personally, I'd like to see, I do, in my experience being out at the stores or when I need to do essential things, I'm seeing a lot of people wearing masks. So a lot of people are doing it. But then there are the few who refuse to wear the mask. And what's the right way for businesses? What's the right way for the grocery store or, the restaurant to deal with a customer who just doesn't want to wear a mask?
I think it's very simple. I say that, do you remember the old no shoes, no shirt, no admittance? No mask, no admittance. That's simple. The standard needs to be that if you're not wearing a mask, and of course they're easy to come by now, if you're not wearing a mask, then you don't get into the grocery store. That's the way it is at my neighborhood grocery store. It's not a problem. Once people understand what the expectation is, I think it becomes much less of a problem. I don't think we should, put all the pressure on business, but I think if there is a clear standard and people understand it, that people will comply.
Right, we can all do our part. Let's shift into education. Distance learning, it's the big decision for the majority of school districts in our area, including Sacramento City Unified. How is the community responding to that?
Well, let's be honest about it. This is very, very difficult, and it is not the preferred way of teaching our children. There is no substitute for kids being able to learn in a social environment, face-to-face with teacher and with other students, but that isn't possible now. And it will not be possible until we bring down the numbers. And so your earlier questions about bringing down the numbers is connected to when we can modify and or end distance learning, because not until it is safe for kids and teachers and volunteers and other professionals in the school setting to go back, should they go back. And so this is a terrible sacrifice, because kids are not going to learn as well. I don't care what anybody says, distance learning is not a substitute. I think districts have learned from 4 or 5 months of experience. I think it will be better this fall. But the goal needs to be to bring down the rate of infection to such a degree that we can confidently return our kids back to where they belong, and that is the school site. Not only learning in the classroom, but playing outside and having all the experiences that go with being a young person and being a student. But not yet, and not until the rates come down.
Well, I think that's something we all agree on. It's just how to do that. So with distance learning, what do you think that means for the future? Can we be cautiously optimistic, or are we thinking, let's look at 2021 and beyond and see what we're going to have to do?
Well, look, I think distance learning, in a way, call it learning over the internet, is probably now always going to have a place. It's certainly been a big subject in the higher education world, and it can be appropriate. Not everything needs to be in person. But I would say for K-12, that the goal needs to be to get students back to school and teachers back to school. But I think the districts are doing absolutely the right thing now, and the state is doing the right thing to say that distance learning is in fact our only current option because of the increasing infection. So we bring down the rate, we return back to school, and I think the latter cannot happen until we tackle the first.
All right, Mayor Darrell Steinberg, we always appreciate your time and sharing your insight and updates with us. For more information, you can get those Sacramento updates at by visiting cityofsacramento.org.